Let's move on to news out of Montana, actually, where the first TikTok ban is being challenged by TikTok itself. You'll be shocked to learn. We can put the first element up on the screen here from the Wall Street Journal. They report that TikTok is suing Montana over their new ban of the social media platform. They're actually challenging it on a constitutional basis. Here's more from the Journal. The suit was filed Monday in the U.S. District Court of Montana, and it alleges that the ban violates the First Amendment and several other laws. The case was brought against the state's attorney general, who is the person that was tasked by the law with enforcing the ban. Now, that ban is not set to go into place until January 1st. This is a little sentence in the Journal report. Quote, "It is unclear how it will be enforced." Yeah. That is true. It is unclear how it will be enforced. The law, this is more from the Journal, it's saying that it's banning ByteDance from, quote, operating in the state and app stores such as Google's and Apple's. That is pretty interesting. And it says any entity violating the law will be fined $10,000 a day, while individual TikTok users will not be punished. Now, a group of TikTokers actually sued the Attorney General last week over the ban. They have all kinds of followers. They say that it's unconstitutional, violates the First Amendment and other laws. TikTok is also saying that it's not within Montana's purview to actually enact a ban based on national security concerns, because that's exclusively the federal government's right with foreign entities. That's something that is not at the state level. It's an interesting part of the lawsuit because it sort of challenges the system of federalism. And TikTok is saying this ban is in violation of a law that prevents the government from saying a person is guilty of a crime and then punishing them without ever going to trial, and rules that govern interstate commerce, as the Journal reports. And they quote a professor at the University of Richmond, a law professor, who says, quote, "The First Amendment argument is a very strong one." He continues to add, "The claim from Montana is that they're protecting national security, and that is something squarely within the domain of the federal government, not left to the state." So on 2 points there, you have a law professor saying the Montana ban is vulnerable. The first point being the First Amendment, free speech questions. The second point being, if you're doing this on national security grounds as a state, it's constitutionally shaky ground as well. Now, I am totally against TikTok for a number of reasons. Whether a state ban is the way to handle it is a separate question from whether something needs to be done.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because it, you know, for you, I was wondering what your thoughts were. In my opinion, you know, I have a lot of concerns about, obviously, privacy, not only when it comes to TikTok, but when it comes to all of these social media platforms. That's number one. There's a lot of civil liberties violations there, in my opinion. There's also increasing research, including dire warning from the Surgeon General about the impact of overuse of social media on mental health, and especially mental health of young people. I have a 15-year-old. I see this like up close and personal. As a parent, it is something that I'm very concerned about. I think a ban is way too blunt a tool and goes way too far. Just to say in one fell swoop, like this one particular company, we're going to target for a ban. I think that, you know, I don't know whether it's going to end up being legal. I couldn't tell you. I'm not a legal analyst. But in terms of whether I think it's the right approach or not, I would say no, it goes too far.
You know, doing it on the state level is really interesting, too, because there are pretty clear national security reasons to target TikTok, to say, like, obviously we have a problem here because Americans' data is being sucked up by a country that's posturing as a hostile foreign power, and it just doesn't make sense to be hoovering up all the data with really no concern, really no safeguard, because even TikTok says with Project Texas, which is their delivery of American data into Oracle Cloud, there will still be some people in Beijing who are authorized to view the data. Okay, so that's already a concession, that there's going to be some people that could be. We know, thanks to excellent reporting from Forbes, there are plenty of members of the CCP that actually work at ByteDance's headquarters in Beijing. So who's going to have access to the data? How close are they to the Chinese government? That question is not solved by Project Texas whatsoever, despite TikTok's repeated assurances that this is the answer to the problem. But that's, again, it's a federal question. That's clearly a federal question, not a state-based question. Utah actually just banned access to Pornhub. Did you follow that at all?
A little bit. I saw Utah was doing a lot in terms of also providing parents with like access to their kids, you know, social media accounts. They're doing a lot over there, which I also have like sort of complicated feelings about. And I don't think any of this breaks down along easy partisan lines. because
although Democrats are allowing it to.
there's a lot of tricky principles in conflict when you talk about these. I mean, the other thing that struck me about the Montana ban that I was kind of surprised about is I didn't think that you could just directly target one company. So in this bill, they single out TikTok.
Yeah.
Usually what lawmakers do, because I think it's the way you're supposed to legislate, is they'll put in a bunch of stipulations. Oh, it's going to apply to a company that has this percent foreign ownership, blah, 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 where at the end of the day, okay, it maybe only applies to TikTok or like 2 other things, but it really is aimed at TikTok. But they explicitly were like, no, this is just about TikTok. Which also, makes me feel like part of this, too, is not just genuine concerns about data privacy, which, again, apply across the board to all of these social media companies, but is also specifically about this, like, China, Cold War, hawkish view towards one country in particular. But, if you really are concerned about the data privacy piece of this or about the teenager social media mental health piece of this, I think what you have to do is you have to have an across-the-board regime that protects people's privacy that can be applied to TikTok. I mean, listen, Twitter has Saudi investors, so why are we not concerned about that, right? I mean, a lot of these companies have foreign investors that one could be concerned about if you're worried about foreign powers having access, and they also are all giant, multi-billion-dollar corporations that have been weaponizing our own data against us and, selling it to the highest bidder. So it seems like the right approach is federal. It seems like it's protecting data privacy and not just aimed at one particular company for an outright ban, which, again, I think is too heavy-handed.
And some of this is the normal, like using the state level as the laboratory of democracy. And maybe there's a novel legal theory that's going to be put to the test in court over this, where there's some provision in Montana state law, or there's some provision that's been tested, or there's some Supreme Court ruling that could apply and protect Montana's ban, and that's all going to be tested and tried, and maybe we'll learn some interesting things through this legal back and forth.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just this is a huge problem because it's not just going to be TikTok, to your point. It's also American companies that are exporting, and we're going to talk about this a little later in the show, some heavy surveillance tools to other countries that other countries aren't cool with, in the same way that Montana's not cool with it, and that the United States, a lot of people in the United States aren't cool with ByteDance. We're kind of doing the same thing with Facebook, and Facebook operates Instagram, Snapchat. These all have the same Twitter. These all have the same bad incentive structure that is addictive, and as Jonathan Haidt has been documenting extensively over on his Substack after Babel, the evidence is now mounting that these have been very, very damaging to young people's brains, to their mental health. That is not just coming from Beijing. I think it's ultra or extra problematic that you could have potential manipulation coming from a foreign power of the algorithm that's going into teenagers' brains. I think it's problematic that they could have control, like, over election stuff. They have people say whether they're interested in voting and registering on TikTok. Well, you can all then be fed misinformation based on, what they can guess about your party and what they can guess about your location. All of that stuff is not good. So I think the instinct to take action against TikTok is understandably more urgent than the other companies. But if you're not starting to target the other companies, I don't know if I can take it seriously.
Yeah, there are all sorts of products that we regulate because of our concern over their harm to kids in particular, whose brains are still forming. This is a brave new world we're in, where not only is it social media, but the way that it's not accidental that these things are addictive. They are engineered to be addictive. They are engineered to keep you on their platforms as long as possible, even though this is
to keep you angry.
And to keep I was going to mention that. I mean, that was one of the interesting revelations from the whole Facebook file thing that came out, was that they saw that people liked their product less but stayed on it longer when they amped up the anger and the rage content. They're like, people find this to be a worse experience, but they stay longer, and that's all we care about. And you can bet it's not just Facebook that is making those sort of calculations. So we're seeing now huge fall, and especially among teenage girls, from the amount of time on these platforms and the way these platforms have been engineered to basically, like, you know, torture us.
And that's why even like most libertarians are not in favor of legalizing heroin. You know, like the hardcore ones are, but like free markets don't work when a product is intentionally addictive, because there's no market incentive for somebody who's addicted to the product to stop using the product. It's not a pure free market experiment if you're becoming chemically addicted. And we do have increasing evidence. Like, do I go back and forth on how we treat cigarettes? Yes, but like this is arguably more serious because all of our politics are being funneled through a platform that functions as a giant cigarette. Like, it's so much worse than that. Your personal life, it's like, okay, yeah, you get addicted to go out for a smoking break. Well, guess what? Now you're addicted because every time you get a call, it could be the worst call of your life. It could be the best call of your life. And so you have an incentive to keep this on you and to think about it mentally. There's research on just how having a phone in your vicinity changes the function of your brain.
Interesting.
It's crazy stuff. And we're, I think, obviously too slow to come around on it.
We're just scratching the surface.
And it gives an excuse for Republicans and Democrats to put legislation like the Restrict Act on the table that just gives them more surveillance powers. Whenever there's bipartisan agreement on something, there's danger for bipartisan corruption. So it's a complicated set of problems that we have shown like very little ability to deal with.
Yes. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.